So, well, yeah, what's that like? Acha, what is your family like? What is their vibe? Because now it's real at this point, no? Because पहले तो ये था हाँ clear कर लिया, अच्छा अभी ये test होगा.
They
Now
were
you're
really
going.
proud. Obviously, so like in Pakistan, if you get into the army, it doesn't matter. Like there is this sense of respect that you receive, and which is a good thing, I guess. I don't know. It gets to people's heads
Yeah.
sometimes. But if you channel it in the right way, you can actually use it for the greater good as well. But a lot of people just don't, they're not able to fathom what how what sort of a blessing it actually is. But so they received a lot of that from the extended family, and people like, oh yeah, your son's going to the army, and they were like, oh yeah, this must be good, so they were all for it.
Okay.
And actually, funny thing, I actually got relegated in PMA. So my first term, I had to actually repeat it because very low GPA I thi in first term.
Mm.
What happened was, um, the training, like I had no idea what I was getting into. It was just it was a roller coaster, right? And I would always be on punishment. It was the same as when I was in grade school. Because sometimes I would wear the nameplate a little crooked, and
Oh.
then you get restrictions, and then you get called for like 2-3 in the morning, you get punished, and then you have to wake up because you're on punishment. You have to report at 4:30 in the morning to the GC office, the gentleman cadet's office, at 4 in the morning. Everyone else wakes up at 6. You wake up at 4 because you have to shave as well. Because if
Oh,
you don't
right.
shave, and like you have to do proper shave, man. They
Right.
take like a piece of paper, and then they sort of scuff it through on your face.
Yeah.
And if a sound comes like, then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, साहब आपने सही shave नहीं किया, बिल्कुल,
Oh,
तो
wow.
आपकी restrictions और आएंगी. Then
Wow.
it's a wheel within a wheel, man. It just never fucking ends. It's
What about
just
what about like
horrible.
हमारे जो मौलवी type community होती है who have like
Hmm.
religious दाढ़ी उनका क्या सीन है वो भी
Yeah,
शेव करेंगे
yeah. A lot of people. Yeah, I think there were very few people who actually kept beards. Otherwise, a lot of people, that most of them, they had to shave, and they did it actually as well, because they wanted to fit in. A lot of
right
people want to fit in, and then which is good. That's what you want in the
yeah
army,
that's
because
the idea yeah
yeah, that's the idea. But some people don't as well. In PMI, you call them Sufis
Sufis
for whatever reason.
yeah yeah okay तो अच्छा तो
Yeah.
PMA में how did it seem like a flashback to your cadet college days like you're
Yeah,
like doing
absolutely,
the same thing again
absolutely. Yeah, it was sort of an extension of that period, but it's just so much more, man. It was just because it was real. In PMA, you would in cadet school, you could always go back to your house like over the
mm.
weekends. Not over
Mm.
the weekends, but like every month, one weekend. I think you were able to go, if I remember correctly. But in PMA, especially if you're on punishment like me, you don't get to go home for like years, man. Like, and if when you're on punishment, you're just a delinquent, and everyone knows. And the GC number had 786 at the end of it, so everyone knew it.
yeah
And I wouldn't even know where the punishment is coming from, and I would just have punishments coming from left, right, and center. We get a part one order after every day. So 1 p.m. you get a part one order. It gets stuck in your company line. So it's just the things that you have to go through.
okay
That you have to do, like the timings of the PT, or if there's something different going on other than the routine. And that's the performer basically that has your punishments of everyone in the company. And I passed out with like more than 160, I think 168 or something punishment. So 168 days of punishment. They
wow
were actually
out of 2 years
accrual. No. Out of the 2 years I'd been on punishment, there were
अच्छा
very few days. All right, but when I was passing out, actually, I had an accrual punishment of 168 days. So had I
accrual
stayed in
अच्छा
PMA, yeah, had I stayed in PMA, I would have had to go through 168 days of punishment. But
wow
thank fuck I passed out. um,
and
yeah.
what sort of things do you like? What's the is it like a university, college? Like, what's the structure of the PMA itself?
Their PMA is, I don't know if you've seen in videos or like you probably would have seen the passing out parades over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's PMA is, it's huge, man. It's just magnificent. It's amazing. Colonial sort of buildings, and it used to be a Kent for British officers, and all the officers are from 1800s, early
Okay.
1800s. Over there, the officers' house is still same as well, and really big, and huge houses as well, because at that time you didn't have a problem of
Yeah, space.
lands
Yeah.
in space. So it's beautiful, and Ahmedabad is in Ahmedabad, so
Oh, right, right.
you have
Where
pine trees and maple trees over there. And when it rains and it snows, it's just amazing. And then you have uh, and it's sacred ground, and everyone in the army, PM is really sacred ground, especially except for the GC. So people who are actually going through training, but
hmm.
when they pass out, their feelings change, obviously, because when they reminisce, they're like, oh no, this is the place where I spent all that time, even though it was really tough. But now when I reminisce it seems beautiful. Um, except for the GCs, everyone holds the PMA ground really sacred. So you have a PMA road that sort of dissects the map of PMA in between, right? And it's a really long road. It's called Kakul Road, and
Mm.
it's PMA road as well. Basically, it's a really long road. So you can't really walk leisurely on that road. So you have to either run or march on that road, and you can't be alone as well. You have to be in pairs. You have to be a group of people
Oh, right.
over there. So the reason why I'm telling you this is there's these sort of rules everywhere around PMA. So you have to behave a certain way according to your surroundings. In company lines, how you have to stand in the PD ground, and how you have to stand in the drill ground, for instance, as well. So there are rules everywhere. That's what they actually instill in you, a hierarchy and rules and discipline, which, yeah, I'm like, in my experience, it really comes in handy,
Mm.
especially in the army. Like, obviously, if you don't, because you have to, it's not like corporate, which where I now work, like that. In my opinion, if you could do it that way,
Yeah, yeah,
so what do
yeah.
you think? And then I can always come back, oh no, but maybe you missed out on that, but in the army, you're like, oh no, you do this shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. This is
And
the
then you
way.
do it because, yes, yeah, this is the way to do it. When you, obviously, when you spend some more time, and like I was in operational area, people who were, which was actually beautiful, and I was pleasantly surprised that had happened when I actually I was in active battlefield. Even generals would take my word, because I was on the ground and they weren't. Obviously, they were in an ops room, just looking at the map. So I never experienced, do this, or you have to do
Right,
this
right. So
a
there
couple of
is
times. But then
flexibility
if you
when it's
reason,
relevant.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but especially when you reason in a manner that it actually conveys your
Sure,
point. So
sure.